Welcome to tonight's webinar. My name is Jeff Winkler. I'm the co-founder of Origin Code Academy. Tonight we'll just kind of review in some of the languages, different programming languages for those that are unfamiliar, why we chose .NET, and kind of review my background as well as Cameron, the instructor. Kind of give a class overview of what the class will look like, as well as what a developer's career will look like, and the specifics moving forward for our first cohort in a few weeks. So here's the kind of an overview of the most popular languages at the moment. Some will debate, some are more popular than others. If you've heard of any, you probably heard of HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. The remaining bottom 5 are all backend languages. Some are used for startups, so like Ruby on Rails is used for startups, but once a company scales, they may use a language like PHP, which is what Facebook is kind of built on. Then all iPhone apps are Objective-C, as well as Swift. So kind of depends on what the purpose of what you're trying to accomplish as to the decision of what language you should make it in. Why do we choose .NET? We went to employers specifically in San Diego, and they all across the board told us that they were hiring for .NET jobs and they needed more .NET developers, and they couldn't find any in San Diego. Kind of an example of that, if you go to the job boards yourself and search for .NET or C# developers, we found 1,548 jobs on dice.com. And then when we search for the same thing for Ruby, Node, and Angular jobs all combined, there was 176 jobs. So everything that we do at Origin is focused on getting people jobs. So everything that we do, we ask ourselves, is this getting our student or person in our meetup group a step closer to getting a developer job? If it's not, then we don't do it. Little background on me. I started a company about 1.5 years ago with no previous experience, didn't know how to code, called Gymsurfing. We sold in February, went to a code school at the beginning of this year to learn how to code myself. I realized once you get into it that without our developer, we would have been nothing at Gymsurfing. We couldn't have even built the main product we were trying to build. So it was something where I didn't want to have to rely on continuing to find a developer to start more companies. I just wanted to do it myself. So I went to a code school. The biggest frustration for me was that the people in my class, they didn't really teach us anything about getting a job. It was more like learn how to code and then learn how to make websites. But it was not learn how to interview. What does a job interview look like as a developer? Because they're totally different than any interview you've ever been to. And no one knew that going out. So they had a hard time finding jobs just because they weren't prepared for what that looks like. And they weren't given the tools to succeed in that regard. So that's how Origin Code Academy came about. I felt very passionately about getting people jobs. I know especially today, there's a lot of people that don't enjoy their jobs. It's rare you meet a developer that doesn't enjoy his job just because of they make above average wages. They usually work in environments that are fun. If you've seen Google, you've seen the slide, the free food, and all the startups there. So, it's really rare that you find a developer that doesn't enjoy their job. And they always get to choose what projects they're working on. So there's a lot of freedom involved. Cameron has his master's in computer science. He's been a developer for the past 5 years, freelance. So he works for companies essentially whenever he wants to, from wherever he wants to. So we may have some students that want to do that. They don't want to go work for somebody else. They want to work for themselves. Maybe they want to travel. It's totally possible. Cameron's done it. He's taught computer science students as well as tutored students, and is continuing to do that for our students that are signed up for the class in 2.5 weeks. He's actually doing some private tutoring right now. So if you're interested in the class and you want to come in for the next 2 weeks essentially to get privately tutored, but it's more so that we can have all of our students hit the ground running. They told us, hey, we're not doing anything for the next 2 weeks. Can we come in and start learning now? And of course they can. We want them to kind of get a head start before the class starts if they're willing to do so. Our class overview is Monday to Thursday from 9 to 5. We expect all students to be there from 9 to 5. On Friday, it's 9 to 5 as well, but it's a little different format. So the typical day is 9 to noon. Cameron will be teaching, kind of reviewing the homework assignments, reviewing how you decided to build stuff and why, and reviewing that day's lesson. And then from 1 to 5, you'll be working on your individual assignment or group assignment, depending on the day. And then Fridays will be the guest speaker day. So we'll have founders of companies come in that are hiring developers. We'll have senior developers who have been doing it for 5 to 10 years come in. We'll have developers from small companies. I have a couple friends that work at Microsoft that are going to come down and kind of explain to students what it's like to work at Microsoft, what that environment looks like, as well as have like hiring managers from companies come in and do mock interviews for the students the last couple weeks. So by the time they get in a job interview, there won't be a question that they haven't heard before. And then the final project will be whatever the student wants to create at the end. If they don't have an idea, we can help with that. But essentially, we want the student to be excited at what they're building, so when the class is over, they continue to build it out and have more projects for employers to check out, as that's essentially your resume when you enter the developer world. Very important question we get asked all the time: how much can I expect to make as a developer? This I took today from Indeed.com for .NET developer salaries in San Diego. So it's information that's as of today, that's for the specific position that you'll be as soon as you graduate the class, which is a junior .NET developer in San Diego. So you see there it says 59,000 is the average. Some will be above, some will be below. But in general, I wanted to give you a feel for, what can I expect to make in 3 years, 5 years. These are the averages. Anything you see that says senior is really a developer that's been around for 3 to 5 years. It can happen sooner, it can happen later. It really just depends on how hard they work, how interested they are in learning, and how fast they want to progress. This is something that came out last week. I just kind of wanted to give a feel for, why should I entertain getting a job as a developer? I've been in sales my whole life. I don't think I can be a good developer. Should I take a class like this? My answer is yes. And I mean, I was in sales previous to starting a company. But the thing is, you can't be good at sales in tech unless you've actually been a developer, or you can't be a good project manager unless you've been a developer, even a novice one, for at least some period of time. So it's just hard because if you've never been in tech before, you don't really know what jobs exist. So something like a project manager is basically a people person that's in the developer world that talks to the CEO of a company and the programmers and kind of bridges the gap between those two, parties essentially. So there's jobs within tech that you don't know about because you've never been in it. But if you've never been a developer or understand how some of that works, it's really hard for you to be effective in that role to begin with. So the overall point of this whole slide was just kind of saying, once you get into tech, that's kind of where the wages are. That's where the demand is. It's where they can't find people with the necessary skills. So it's a great time to be taking a coding class in general. Another article just kind of states that, people can't find .NET developers. They're really hard to find. I know that because I go out and talk to tons of employers in San Diego and no one can find any. But once you start doing your research and talking to developers in general, you'll kind of run into the same thing. I think more so than stats, personal experience is very important. So my experience at the code school, before I even graduated, I had a recruiter reach out, and this is a screenshot from that email. I didn't know how much I was worth as a junior developer. She told me I was worth 60 to 80, and she does it all the time. So I wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of what my experience was as a junior developer coming out of a code school. So you have, the number 60 keeps coming up, whether it's the average or whether it was what I got offered. So I would say around there would be a good goal for junior level developer, and keep that in mind for an average. Downtown San Diego is where our office will be located. There's 45 members. There's dozens of startups in that building, founders that are hiring developers. Some that have told me as soon as we have our students graduated, they want to hire all of them. We don't want to put students in a position where they would fail, so we're only going to put you in a situation where they can have the infrastructure to support hiring all of them if they want to go work there. But we already have some students in our class. Some want to work at larger corporations, so while our guarantee doesn't include what company you work for, we take getting our students jobs very seriously. So if they want to work for a bigger company, like we'll go meet with the bigger companies. Everybody needs developers. Every company needs developers. So it's not hard to find. If you have a specific company in mind that you want to work for, we can create a pathway to get there. Maybe they won't hire you upon graduation, but we can at least put down the path. Here's where you should start working for that kind of experience and get you to wherever it is you need to go. In terms of pricing, it's $11,995. Financing is available. So all that's required to save your spot in the class is a $1,000 deposit, which is refundable if you change your mind and decide it's not for you before the class starts. Also, you can start the class for up to 2 weeks, decide it's not for you, get a full refund. But in terms of getting you a job afterwards, some companies call it a 2-month paid internship. Some call it a 2-month trial period. But after the class is over, our 100% money back guarantee includes getting you paid to be a developer. So like we said, sometimes they call it an internship. Sometimes they call it a job with a trial period. We just want to get you in a scenario where you're set up for success, where you're getting paid, and you're set up to be able to grow in the future after we talk down and sit and see what your specific individual goals are. Some people's goals are actually to be a freelance developer after our class. So each person's different, but regardless, we're getting you a paid role with a company as a developer. And if we do not do that within 90 days of graduating our class, we give you 100% of your money back. People ask a lot, how can we guarantee that? For the first class specifically, just because I was in the startup community before, and before that I was in finance. So I know I have a lot of personal relationships with tech founders in San Diego. And part of the reason I came to San Diego was because I had so many of those relationships. And so for our first class, I know for sure everybody can get hired. Once we get to the second class, it'll be more word of mouth and building up that community. But for the first class specifically, I already know I can get up to 10 students jobs tomorrow if they already have the skills, just because of those personal relationships. So it's something people ask, so just want to throw that out there how I know. I won't cover the online a lot because I know a lot of the people in the webinar tonight are more interested in the career option. But you will get access to the online videos in the class if you take the career option as well. So you can always go back and rewatch the lessons if you need to after the class is over. Application process is online. Once you fill that out, you'll get an email from me setting up the phone interview. And then depending on how that goes, you'll get the acceptance. We'll send you pre-work, and then the class starts afterwards. These are the 2 most important dates. September 21st is our next class, so it's about two and a half weeks away. And then January 4th is our next class. So we have people actually sign up for the January 4th class already, because we know a 3-month-long commitment is a big commitment. So some people need some time to push that out, which is totally fine. If you're going to do that, it's better to do it now and save your spot. Like I said, if something changes in the future, we can always give you your deposit back. But for the September 21st class, if you're wanting to take that, you need to email me after this webinar tonight, or in the morning at the very latest. I have phone interviews tomorrow afternoon, all afternoon. So if we could ideally have your phone interview done by tomorrow morning, that'd be good. Middle of next week is when we'll probably stop doing phone interviews, just because they'll be getting too close to the class, and we want to allow our students at least a week to be able to get all the pre-work done. And we don't want to rush them on the pre-work so that they aren't hitting the ground running when the class starts. So if this is something you want to do, shoot me an email tonight, preferably, for the phone interview. Just get the process started. So if you do want to commit to it, we have all your information. We can you can get you here by the 21st. What can I do right now? A lot of people are like, well, it seems like a good thing, but I don't know if I'll enjoy coding. what should I do? Go to Code Academy, do the HTML or JavaScript class. Try it out for, I don't know, maybe a week, a couple days, however long until you decide, wow, this is really fun and I love building stuff, or this is really boring and I could never do this every day. That's probably the best way to go about doing it if you've never touched code before. You'll know pretty quickly if it excites you that you're like, oh man, look what I just built, or you're like, this is the worst ever. You'll know right away. So that's what I would encourage you to do if you haven't touched code before you make any kind of decision on any kind of a code school. Meetup.com is where you'll find our meetup September 8th. It's at CoMerge. If you want to check out the space, me and Cameron will both be there, as well as bringing free pizza and free beer, so more reasons to go. And we'll be building projects. So I touched on it a little bit, but your GitHub account is probably the most important thing you can have when you go to employers. So we're just helping people in San Diego build up their GitHub accounts by building a new project each meetup. And so, you know, as long as they keep coming, the more and more projects they'll have in their portfolio. So a year or two from now, they'll be highly marketable once they start applying for jobs. And kind of like I'd stated before, and I can't say enough, our main focus is getting people jobs. So whether it's the online option, whether it's the in-person option, if they want to come to our meetup for, you know, a year and teach themselves over the next year or two, however we can get people jobs is really our end goal. So like I said, everything we do kind of revolves around that. If you have additional questions, shoot me an email, jeff@origincodeacademy.com, or if you have technical questions about programming languages or the curriculum itself, Cameron's the perfect person to ask for that, Cameron@origincodeacademy.com. I would say the most important thing is if you're interested in the September 21st class, even if you're not going to apply right away, give me a heads up. We're coming down to it and want to make sure that if you're interested, that I'm having an open line of communication and it's not something where it's like, oh, hey, I decided I want to sign up now. Just give me a heads up as to where you're at and we can make it happen. So I appreciate your time. If you have any additional questions, let me know. If you have any like ideas for projects for the meetup, you can show up for the meetup because those are all self-generated by our you know, members as well. So we just want to help you guys learn how to code. So that's just coming to the meetup. It's a great first step. I appreciate you guys spending some time on here, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks.